Hi, my name is Justin from Woodport. I'm going to go over some basic tools that I keep out in the field for any type of repairs. I'm going to show you a couple tricks that we do. We're first going to talk about the door stamp. The door stamp, every single domestic door that leaves Woodport has a stamp on the top. I buy this little mirror thing for a couple reasons. One, I'm lazy. Two, I'm short. So if you take the mirror up here, you can see the door code, as we call it. It'll say something along the lines of H3TM 26806 or whatever the code may be. It also has the date of manufacturing. We require this if you need to replicate the door in a future order or if there's anything wrong with the door out in the field. So this is useful, especially for 7-foot, 8-foot doors. Loose panels and loose glass, depending on if the door is unfinished or finished, I'm going to show you two quick methods that we do. Again, we would take the door off the hinges, lay it down onto your sawhorses. The first thing I would do if it's unfinished is I got this little expandy foam right here and a putty knife. And just for showing you as this is upright, if this panel was sliding left and right or up and down, I would take little bits of this foam and start stuffing it into the groove here until that panel is nice and seated. If you have a door that's finished, like this one, we don't want to use this method because we don't want to screw up the finish. So what I would do is take my little syringe and fill it up with my wood glue. And it does dry clear, but I would start about a third of the way down, again, into that groove, shooting about to here. So not all the way down, because you're going to let that glue ride the rest of the groove down and let it cure. Again, we want to kind of do this when the door is laying down. You can do it while it's seated up, but the better effects of it lasting longer is if the door is laying down, then cured, then put back up. The blacklight test. We did an earlier video showing you that all of our components have glow-in-the-dark fluorescent dyes and adhesives that get put into the components. So the components get run under blacklight tables, and you can get this from Amazon for like 10, 12 bucks. To show you that there's no glue spots, there's no splice lines that are wide, because we do take our flitch veneers, we do splice them, so you will have a splice line, but it'll be very, very hard to tell, and it should glow in the dark. But as you can see, I don't have any glue spots, oil stains, or splice lines, so this is good to go. So this is a useful tool prior to finishing as well. Veneer bubbles. If you have a door that's got some bubbles in it, what you would want to do is lay the door back down. You take your X-Acto knife, go up to the bubble itself, lightly make an incision into the bubble. We would then inject our wood glue into the slice. We would then take our painter's tape, and if you had a big enough clamp, we would either tape it down real tight, otherwise clamp that spot, let it cure, and then put the door back up. Next, we're going to talk about the bag lift. If you want to, this is what the bags look like. This is super useful when you're taking heavy doors off hinges and putting them back up. As you can see, they're just airbags that you pump up. Takes all the weight off that door. Once you're done, just let it back out. Instead of trying to hold the door in place while the other person's trying to put the hinge pins back in, it's a work smarter, not harder type thing. The iron out, we talked about that in the groove video. Basically, if we had a gouge or groove in the style rail or panel, what we would do is we would apply water to that infected area. We would take our iron. You don't need this particular one, you can use any iron. Get it nice and hot, iron it out, and then just take your sanding sponge or orbital, go with the grain and sand off everything else. Reference that video if you want a little bit more lengthy demonstration, but that's how we take care of those. Warp, we talked about this in the warp video, but basically if you're looking for warp, you want to lay the door down again. Well, 9 times out of 10 you're going to want to lay the door down. They're gonna take your level and you're gonna ride it from corner to corner, and you're gonna see if there's any play in it. And the standard is 1/4 of an inch. So anything more than that, it's got a warp. We're looking at 6 months for it to correct itself. We wanna make sure the door is acclimated to its new environment. So that's how we would check for that. Which kind of goes into the moisture meter reader. This is my hydrometer. So it's giving me the relative humidity for the current location of the room. We want to make sure it's not too high, not too low. We don't want to have the door cold shocked where all the moisture is sucked out, or too much moisture in the environment where the door swells. An example might be if a unfinished door is by new plaster, concrete, in the basement where there's no dehumidifier. This door will suck up all that moisture in the air and it'll actually push out and expand. So you're gonna have loose panels, the joints are gonna buckle and push. It's just gonna be a nightmare. So this is a good tool to reference for that. Again, Amazon, 30, 40 bucks. Our moisture meter, now at Woodport, we've got a Wagner version for the low price of $600. If you want something more reasonable, again, Amazon, this was like $40. The photo sensor eye on this cheap version is pretty much useless, so you definitely want to use the prongs. And to get an accurate content, we want to jam the prongs fully in there to get an accurate reading of what that percent might be. We're looking for that sweet spot of 10 to 12%. Racked door. I'm going to show you on my little display here. Don't mind the display, it's been beat up quite a bit. If you're looking at a door that's kind of skewed in the opening, there's a couple tricks to look at. If you got some string and you lay the string from corner to corner to form an X like this, you want to make sure to look at where the lines meet. If the string is barely touching, just enough, just touching, the frame is fine. If there's a gap in between, or you're seeing some force between the two, that frame is racked in that opening. If that's not the case, there is another trick you can do. And bear with me here. This thing's been through a lot. This particular tool is called a knuckle bender. You can go on YouTube and look at all the ways to use this knuckle bender. This is about 20 bucks on Amazon. What we would do is we would pop the hinges 3/4 of the way up. You can see this has a groove for the knuckle. We would apply it to the knuckle, and then whatever direction we needed to adjust the door, we would bend every other knuckle. Once we've bent it enough, we simply put the pins back in, and the door should adjust that little bit. If you're looking for another trick, you can use longer screws in the hinges into the frame to pull that door. You can pull a corner out or in by sinking longer screws into it as well. Glass fix. We got 2 videos on glass repair. I'm just going to touch on this real quick. So again, our frit, it's done in a dust-free environment. However, with standards from our current suppliers, I'm not really a big fan of frit, just because the allowable number of pinholes I don't agree with. The film that comes with it, as we mentioned in the other videos, is just for handling purposes only. It is semi-porous. If the finisher does not tape off, the finish will bleed through, get on this textured side, and ruin your glass. Quick method to fix that is fingernail polish remover. Getting all that fun stuff off, it should come out. Otherwise, acetone's number 2. Joint check. We have another video called gap tolerance. Again, we're going to take our feeler gauge. You can get this on Amazon. The allowable gaps is 20 thousandths. You can check all the seams here. You see this is so tight I can't even get in there. If you have a gap in your joint anywhere and your feeler gauge moves really free, that means the door needs to be fixed or replaced. But that kind of touches on our construction. All these components are true wood, so Your stile gets bored out with bore holes, your rail gets bored out with bore holes, glue shot in all of the holes, and there's dowels running across into those bore holes, and then the door is compression clamped together. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the upright knock. So on our French doors, all of our French doors here at Woodport are true divided light, means all these components are individual working together. If something were to happen in transit from freight, or the door gets dropped, or something happens where one of these uprights gets shifted over and it doesn't look correct, you can take a block of wood, or what we call the door knocker, simply butt it up to that component, pound it over with your hammer to get it back in line. Pretty easy peasy to correct. So that was a quick look at all the tools that a sales rep from Woodport would use out in the field. If you got any questions, please give me a call. Thank you.